And for those of you who have not been keeping score for the last however many years, welcome to our 200th episode of MVP Office Hours. That would be a 2 with 2 zeros after it. I honestly don't know when it started. I know I've been doing this for, 4 or 5 years now, and I was on the 100th as well. I don't know if that means I've been on too long or whatever, but here we are, 200, and this has been a massively awesome, successfully community effort. This is what the Salesforce community is all about, is not only helping each other, but doing it sustainably, that we got to version 200 of the thing. So well done, community and everyone else. My name is Dale Ziegler. I'm based here in Kansas City. With me, as always, is my partners in crime, Joy Shutters Helbing and Squire Kirshner. Say hello, Joy and Squire.
Hello, Joy and Squire.
These are all our handles on the Twitters, and then you can also catch any info that you need at mvpofficehours.info, or email us with questions or anything that you might need in between meetings at mvpofficehoursus@gmail.com. Over on the right in the upper right corner is all things events, whether they are Salesforce sponsored, community sponsored, in-person, virtual, webinars, whatever. I particularly love this third one here, Trailheads, events, and webinars. Not only is it upcoming live webinars, but if you missed a webinar, they post the recordings there as well. So definitely, if there was something on flows or summer 21 or whatever, go check that out. It has some pretty robust filters as well, so you're not just infinitely scrolling through the dreaded list of all the things, because there is a lot of good stuff, so you can filter down for whatever you're looking for. Upcoming Dreamin' events, which if you're new to the Salesforce space or new to the community space, Dreamin' events are put on by those of us here in the community. They are not put on by Salesforce, so they're a little bit more intimate, a little bit more, no, really, here's what happens. We had a couple of events actually in Europe that, to my knowledge, went off successfully. I think it was Czech Dreamin', and I just didn't catch it before we hit delete because it was in the past tense. But
sorry about that. Yeah, they're old. Sorry.
No, all good. I mean, it's great to hear that the events are actually happening. So, woo. Coming up next week is Trailhead X, which is a Salesforce event, but it's a great learning event, a great technical event. If you've logged into Salesforce anytime in the last few weeks, you've seen the all-star cast of keynote speakers, including Mindy Kaling, who is both hilarious, insightful, intelligent, all around awesome. So if you have an opportunity to catch her speak, or Parker Harris, or there's some CEOs, CIOs of really successful implementations, definitely check that out.
If I could just jump in quick, Dale, the community site is sorely updated, either because there's no meetings or because it's like they've moved somewhere else. So I don't know if upcoming is accurate. So if anybody hears anything, they should show.
Okay. Good call out.
There's nothing on the calendar until September, and that just seems wrong.
Right. It's a good call out. So awesome. Yeah. And then in the lower right is links to local meetings. So I lead the Kansas City group, Squire's leading Milwaukee, Joy's leading Chicago suburbs.
No.
Chicago. Sorry.
We got another group for the suburbs.
Okay, well, and that's what I thought that you were in. So I get it. Kansas City, we have Kansas, we have Missouri. That's a fight too. I get it. Anyway, if you want to get connected with people closer to you, even if it's virtually, sometimes knowing that there's others right there in the same city or same closer region to communicate with and network with and learn from, definitely go check those out. And if they're virtual, they're wide open to the world. I know in Kansas City, our last few meetings, we've grabbed people from the Netherlands and from India. Pretty sure I heard an Australian accent in there as well. So if the meetings are virtual, don't be afraid to join if there's something of interest that you want to see or hear. So globally speaking, it's not just us here in the United States. We also have Carlos, who leads the MVP Office Hours Portuguese. Is Carlos on the call?
I don't see him.
Okay. When he is on, we let him do the intro spiel, but you do not need to know Portuguese or Spanish to join the Portuguese call. Carlos does all the translating. He does both Portuguese and Spanish. He's actually based in Tampa, but I believe is from Brazil originally. And so that's his passion, is to reach back to his original home community. Anybody can jump in and help. It's the last Thursday of the month. I want to say mid to late afternoon Eastern time. So still a good time to help, and you don't need to worry about the language barrier. So check out mvpofficehours.info to get more information on that. So what do we do here? Well, normally we meet the first and third Friday of the month, which we are actually strangely in a month where we're meeting on the third Friday of the month. Things just been really weird the last several months. We are going to skip what would be the next meeting on July 2nd because of the 4th of July holiday. So we're going to push July to the 9th and 23rd. It's open Q&A. Come with any questions or thoughts or perspectives. Also, come with any answers you may have. You don't have to be an MVP to answer the question. Sometimes MVPs ask. This is an open dialogue, open conversation. Registration link is here on the left. Past recordings you can find through YouTube or on the community and through Twitter. And then don't forget to use our favorite hashtags for easier searching. Everyone participates. Share your references and your links and your guidance and your, oh yeah, I had to do that too. It was actually really easy, or, oh, it sucked. I feel for you. Whatever it may be, please bring it to the table. We're all here to help each other. We just ask that if you're not speaking, please mute. But if you have a question, either raise your hand in the chat, post the question in the chat, or if it's dead air, which is every radio DJ's worst nightmare, just speak up and say, hey, I have a question. And like I said, just mute when you're not talking. And when you do start talking, please announce yourself so that we know who we're talking to. And you do have the ability to share your screen, but please, absolute last resort is your production org. Show us a sandbox, show us a dev org, show us a flowchart, show us whatever. But we are recording this. It will be uploaded to YouTube sometime this weekend. Along with that, because we're recording, if you cannot be recorded or don't feel comfortable being recorded, please, au revoir, have a great weekend. But we will have the recording posted, like I said, this weekend, and we'll also share out the deck and links to resources shared and everything. But going back to production data, the last thing we want is for production data or your client's data to be uploaded to the interwebs and undeletable. So just remember that if you share your screen. Didn't mention it's the 200th episode.
And Jake brought his pet. Jake, I forget. I forget Jake's pet's name, the bird's name. But I like that puppy.
Yes, Bongo says hello.
What's his name?
Bongo.
Bongo.
Very nice.
I like it.
Everyone here is an MVP, whether you have the Salesforce appointed title or not. We are all MVPs. We are all here to help each other. We are all here to learn from each other. That's, again, what has made this so successful to get us to a 200th episode. So thank you, everybody. Our link Hall of Fame, I'm pretty sure we're going to have a conversation today where we bring up the order of execution. We just do. It solves many, many problems. And the Mandela effect, if you're interested, go click into it and read about it yourself, because that seems to come up a lot as well. So we are going to start with some questions from the success group. So first question we had, let me get flipped over there, is from Abby. Zoom in here. Do we have Abby on the call? And it takes silence as a no.
I don't see her, no.
Okay. So paraphrasing the question, looking to use Mobile Connect and specific keyword to send out loyalty registration link via SMS. They are not looking to opt people into SMS to go through this process, simply using SMS to send out the link. while testing this, see once you send that keyword to the short code, you're automatically added as a new contact. They want to later on activate the SMS program and actually have contacts separately opt into SMS due to data constraints on their backend system. Can't do this at the time sending initial message. So one, if someone voluntarily texts a keyword, but there's no explicit opt-in message tied to the keyword, are you breaking any carrier rules by setting this up, given that no other messages will be sent to this user other than the initial outbound message for that keyword? Possible to distinguish contacts depending on which keyword they initially submit. You see via testing, a keyword used for opt-in purposes shows up under membership, not a simple outbound message keyword, and looking to generate a suppression list of everyone who doesn't explicitly opt in. And three, if someone is already a contact in Marketing Cloud who has an SMS contact ID, can you technically opt in again using a different keyword? Will it create a duplicate contact? The only guidance I would have to offer on this is I don't know if it's carrier rules or if it's more the federal laws of CAN spam and things like that. But other than that, I'm out.
I got nothing.
Yeah, that makes two of us. I don't have any familiarity with Mobile Connect, unfortunately. Anyone on the group otherwise?
Okay.
I'm going to assume that that Abby has gone through all of the Google searches for stuff.
Right.
But this seems like something that they might be able to bubble up to their AE and ask for help on. Because I know that they may or may not get the bigger answer that they're looking for from support. So they might want to go up the chain and see if they can get someone that understands the Mobile Connect and Marketing Cloud specifically and ask for that, some kind of specialist from Salesforce.
Right. Okay.
I also don't have anyone in my back pocket who would know all about that.
And I wasn't able to find a Mobile Connect success group initially, but I bet you there is one if I dug a little bit harder. So that might be a good recommendation as well.
Okay. Surely someone who watches this recording or catches the deck may be able to provide some guidance. And if so, you know where to contact us, either in the MVP Office Hours US Success Group or at MVP Office Hours us@gmail.com. And then we can, the answer will get to Abby somehow, some way. All right. Our next question came from Joshua Jacobs. Is Josh on the call? Okay. Squire, you had jumped in on this one. Do you want to tee it up?
Sure. So, I mean, it was an interesting question. I thought just because you could kind of feel like that fresh face interest in the platform. But the question basically was, Josh and his wife are starting to dive into Salesforce. They're looking to become certified through Hiring Our Heroes, and just has some questions of how the best way to prepare for an exam, which I think is a pretty standard question. And there's so many great sessions on Trailhead Live and even coming up at Trailhead DX to talk about that sort of thing. My recommendation was about getting experience, not just trying to turn pages and pass the exam. But there were some really good suggestions as far as focus on focus. And there was another one here. I'm trying to find it right now, I think. Oh yeah, the solo admins and the admin one cert success group were the ones that popped up. But open to other suggestions. I'm sure everybody has their own history there.
I will say that there is a practice test with Salesforce you can take. Things like $20.
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend taking that because you get a feel for the test and what the test question can be like. So it's a not too expensive way to actually experience what the test is going to be like before you go take the real test.
I agree with taking the Salesforce test, their practice test. It's great. I did a lot of studying with Mike Wheeler and Focus on Force and the Trailheads, and I was scoring really good on the Focus on Force and Mike Wheeler's test. And then I took the Salesforce practice exam, and I still would have passed, but I really was able to hone in where I was struggling. And I had a couple years experience. I became an accidental admin and then really started to learn. And so that helped so much. And then the other thing is that when I took my test, I flew through it, but I used the flags, and I would go back and reread the questions at the end. And I did that 3 times. And then I was like, okay, like I used my whole time slot. This is it. But I think flagging and going back and reading really helped at the end.
Absolutely. Good call out on the flagging. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that is a unheralded or however you want to say it, like knowing how to take that test regardless of your knowledge is a critical piece of succeeding in any of those exams, I think. So I love that too.
Yeah.
So this is Marty. I'm a volunteer for a group that's learning how to be admins, and we've been told that the exam, even the percentages of topics, is changing this month. And Focus on Force is not yet currently up to date.
Gotcha. Like how drastically changing?
I think significantly. I mean, I think if you know everything, you know, if you've been an admin and you know everything, I think you could probably still pass. But if you're somebody who doesn't know that much about Salesforce, I've been told, and I'm only repeating what I'm told. I've been told it's somewhat significant.
Gotcha.
So it might be worth waiting if you're a Focus on Force user. I'm venture to guess that they'll update their material. They probably can't do it until the test, the updated test is released. So that might be, so it's either one of those, either rush and take it before it changes in the next couple of days, or maybe give it a couple months if you're going to use Focus on Force as a study guide.
You are correct. They are going to change it. And I also think that is a very good resource. I used that.
I used it as well. I used it for a couple of them, and I like it because it gives you, I think Focus on Force does a good job of wording their questions similar to how the actual test is. And I go through and get an idea of like which categories I'm missing on. So obviously if I'm missing a bunch of like where it's 1% of the test, I don't stress about that so much as I look more on the 13, 15, 20% sections.
And and I also think people need to understand why it's right versus wrong. And if you send them an email through their forums or, put the information in the forum, they will respond.
What's also good about this changeover period with Focus on Force is that a membership is good for a year. Mm-hmm. So even if they're going to have to update any of their tests or their content or anything, depending on when you enable your subscription, you have a year. So everything should get ironed out and straightened out. Going back to experience, I would definitely +1 experience and looking for volunteer opportunities. I know here in Kansas City, we've had a really good handful of people that have looked for nonprofits or smaller companies that are they have Salesforce, but they don't have the resources to actually properly get it up and running and sustainable. And especially in the nonprofit space, you're probably looking at either volunteers or hired resources who really could or should be out there fundraising, not managing the CRM. So they're looking for somebody to just come in and take that burden off their shoulders. And it becomes very valuable bullet points on a resume to say, I did A, B, and C, I touched flows, I know process, ... Because going for that first job interview, it's not just a certification. It's not just experience. It's still kind of, unfortunately, you need both. But if you have the actual hands-on experience, no one's going to ask or hold it against you if it was a volunteering spot at a nonprofit versus a bigger company, whatever. If you know how to talk the talk, you know how to walk the walk, then that's what matters. One site I know that has been used locally is catchafire.org. which lists out a ton of volunteer opportunities that you can look for. So.
Question he said specifically about not understanding the terminology, which I would say to that, in Trailhead, those links that are always like learn more resources to the help pages, that's where you're going to get into the nitty gritty. This is what this word means, or like even definitions of methods. And like I've used the developer blog or the developer site to get like the straight up definitions of what some of these words mean. So I would say that as a deep dive resource is the technical documentation.
Yep. Good call. And of course, network with people like us. We may not know the answer, but we know the people who do. So come join us. All right, let's move on to our next.
One quick other thing is don't forget about certification days.
Oh yeah, certification days. Yep. Good training opportunities that come with discounts on certs. Good call. All right, Andrea, you want to take us into our next one?
Yeah, so I said follow up to last time where we went, instead of the email notification craziness, going with the chatter groups. And in an effort to not encourage people to use chatter instead of Slack, because Slack is that's the thing. I set the group up as private and broadcast only, and it's throwing errors. So I did in a record triggered, got errors. I tried an auto launch running in system permission, got errors. And these were both using the unofficial SF Apex action to post and chatter. And then I did an auto launch with the native chatter post, and every one of them was a permissions issue. So I'm wondering if if the person posts closing the opportunity has to be a member of the chatter group to post. How we can potentially make this work.
I guess as silly as it sounds, the first thing I would do is, have you tested that? Is it public and not broadcast only? That works just fine. And then make it private and check that. And then make it broadcast but public. And because I feel like it's the broadcast checkbox that's the problem, but I don't know that for sure.
Okay, I have not tested all the permutations of that though, but I will do that I'll go through and I'll try it and see. Because I don't want, it's private because we eventually will be using communities. And so I don't know what our settings are going to be like if we're going to expose chatter groups at all. So I just preemptively have it on private. And that's why it's broadcast, because I don't want people to, some of the pushback I got from somebody was that, is that concern of confusing where we communicate, if it'll be in Slack, people start communicating in chatter versus Slack. So I don't want it to be a source of communication.
And the reason I totally understand the long term, but you want to make sure that you understand the error before you try to solve it. And the reason I think it might be broadcast only is because there's some rules about how I think only the owner and managers can ever post a broadcast only chatter, even out of system context. So that might be the actual issue, but it feels like it's something else. So just, flipping the switches, test it, and just see which one actually blocks you. Then you know what to actually target for the fix.
Okay. Makes sense on that one. So I will try that. The other one I'm getting separate is trying to use Flow to create, we have, if we're closing business with an account, they might have child locations, and we need there's a junction object that is associating other accounts with the opportunity. It's creating a custom object called opportunity location. It's a link to the account, a link to the opportunity. And am using, the request came about because they're trying to search for child accounts and it's tough to search for. I was like, okay, we'll do it with the flow and have it use the data table component for Unofficial SF. Here's your list. Check all you want to create opportunity location for. That works. But I also want to give them the option, if the account doesn't exist, to create a child account. Creates the opportunity location. Creates the child account in Sandboxes doing this when I'm debugging. But it's hitting an error. And I put a couple different, I put like different error screens for my testing purposes at different points. So it's failing at the end when it's trying to create an account. I don't know if that all, if it, yeah. So it says like account, I'll do it real quick and see if I can give you the exact error message.
Do you want to share your screen?
I can do that.
Okay.
Share. Too many windows open. Okay. I really like this new feature. It makes life so much easier. Little things in life. So there are no child accounts. Great, fine. What we expect. So I want to create an additional one.
Does the debug log send the flow error emails, or is that only when you actually run the flow?
I don't think it does because I haven't gotten any.
Gotcha.
So I do all that, so that all works. And then it'd be really funny if it actually worked right now.
That's how it always worked.
I know. This seems to be taking an exceptionally long time. What is it? Did I not save my other, buggers. I had better error messages before. It told me where in the process it errored.
It didn't just say error and you just threw up your hands.
No, I wrote different ones. So this is different. Account on create. Okay, this is all right. This is a totally different error that it's like the message here that it is giving me now. So that's exciting. But what it was doing, yeah, this is, oh bugger, did I not?
You have different versions of
that's exact. That was my next. I was like, wait, I think I just didn't. I think this one was active and I don't have the current version. Opportunity locations.
Also, do you have your deliverability turned on in your sandbox? Because I think you do get an email.
It is not. Okay, here we go. It is not turned on. So.
Yeah, then you probably wouldn't receive an email error.
Which is fine. Okay, let's try this again. Need more error messages. Debug this one. It should give me a different this one again. Same idea. It didn't. Mistakes. No more. Next. Oh, now it's gonna take forever again. Oh no, there we go. Okay, so it had an error. Error creating accounts. Okay, it's no. This is once again a different error. It's not failing where I need it to fail. It's hitting. No, it's hitting.
Sure, it's not that invalid, the Zen planner?
It was, well, I mean, that's what it is now. That's not the error message I was getting before.
Gotcha.
So I've encountered a different problem. It's probably just something with one of these. So I am going to not dwell on that too long, but it's nope, different flow. Nope, different flow. Go back to the one that I want. Oh my gosh. Too many windows. Yeah. So it was failing here in creating the location records, because this is the error screen I was getting. But it was creating them, which is what was weird. So
have any duplicate rules or?
But that it wasn't, yes, but that wasn't the error. What the error that I was getting was can't, because here's the locations. It was saying like can't find account __ C. So it was this field that it was having trouble pulling in, but it was creating the location record. So something, I don't know, something went wonky in, and it's only when I try to create a new account, it's not happening when I try to create an opportunity location record with an existing account.
Field level security set correctly across environments? Because you're right, so this is going to run as the running user, not as the system. And even you as an admin cannot have field level security to certain fields. Like you being an admin doesn't override anything here.
Okay. But it's weird because like I said, these get created. That's what's like perplexing me. Because I can create a new, I can manually create a new record, maybe.
Right, but is there something happening with the flow that's trying to make an update or a create that's linked to security somehow?
Is the account lookup on location a filtered lookup?
I don't believe so, because that's part of the complaint. Why sales users don't like this is because it's not. Like I can go whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just throwing dark because we had some issues where the filtered lookup threw an error, but because you can override a filtered lookup, it still committed. It just gave you a little pop-up that was like uncomfortable. But unless I can see the error, I couldn't confirm. But
yeah, I'll try to I'll try to recreate the error and then I'll just post it in the group, and we can go from there. So.
Sounds good.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Leah, are you still with us?
Yes.
Go for it.
So we have Salesforce Sandbox. We have Lightning Sync set up. We haven't been able to migrate to Einstein Activity Capture yet. We don't have enough license to do it. And so, you know, when you get Lightning Sync and even Inbox, you have that side panel with the integration of Outlook. When you're logging a calendar event, we're able to get one field, and it's the standard field of type, but it says event type on the side panel. And we're trying to track what types of events our users are having. We know that they're meetings, but what different types of meetings they're having. And even though I have that field marked as required on our page layout that's assigned, on our global quick action that we have, on the various records that we like our users to link activity to, I can't get it to be required in Outlook. It's a standard field, of course, for tasks and events and activities. So I can't make it required upon saving. So I just didn't know if there any guidance on if it's even possible to make that field from the side panel be required to log the event.
Is it required at the field level or just at all of the page levels?
So it's the page levels, because it's a standard field. I can't edit it to make it required. Yeah.
I don't like the idea that just popped into my head, but a custom type field, which is insane. But maybe it'll spark someone else to slap my hand and have their better idea.
Right. And you've gone through all the configuration options, because I mean, if it's a standard field, if there's any requirements attached to it, whatever, Salesforce should give some amount of configurability of how you set that field. Like they're not going to hang you out to dry on that.
I'm gonna poke around.
I had one of my admins tell me that, because I brought this up, we were just discussing it after the post, that you might have to create a new quick action with a new layout definition, and in that custom layout, make the field required. Because it is a standard field, so you can't make it system required. Mm-hmm. But if you create a new quick action to replace the standard one, you might have some customization options. We didn't test it, but that was the comment.
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting, and to think about the custom field, we had a custom field called, subject type, because we've got, this is not unique, of course, our Salesforce admin team supports multiple service lines or business units within our group. So of course, we use record types like everyone to customize. So we had a custom field, and I know that they retired some of the capabilities of the side panel in winter 20. And so I'm not able to actually customize field options on the side panel, like change it out instead of having that standard field of event type and put in subject type, which I could make required at the field level set. Right now, the customization, if you're looking underneath the Outlook configurations, is really just to build a panel, and that is to drop in Lightning components and not fields. And I've Googled, I reached out to the Outlook success group that I'm a part of, and just trying to see, has anybody else had any other success? I'll have to try the global action though and see if I can get that to work. Because I know, and I'll share my screen. I do have a meet. I actually was like, I'll log this meeting so I can share my screen with that. So let's see.
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely be a quick action, not a global. I know it's splitting hairs, but just to make sure you're on the page there.
Yeah. So
and I think because the standard layout isn't something you can actually touch the standard action, like the built-in action, you'd have to start from there.
Yeah. So here's the calendar event for today's meeting that I put on here on my Outlook, so I could go ahead and log it. And so here's the standard field, event type. And so I'm able, obviously, to customize the pick list options that we have in here. And so I can pick new meeting, but I can't make it required. So if I leave this blank and I want to log it, I actually had logged it earlier trying it. Let me go back to where I was to make sure. Okay. It logs the activity, even though in Salesforce, and this is my page layout, I have that field marked as required. And in our quick actions on our page layouts, we have it required as well. So I guess I'll have to make one, or attempt to make one for Outlook, because when we do the side panel, let me go. So if I do the side panel and I get my options with the box, oh, come on.
Yeah,
so it's different, really.
Right.
Yep.
So when you're setting it at the page level, it requires you to be on the page. The system.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we have this here, and I can create a new event here, but it's not pulling that calendar detail. And that's what we're looking for also is the calendar detail. So that's what I'm trying to figure out, if it's even possible to somehow enforce through the standard side panel that to be a required field.
So the new event LS is your custom quick action, but
yes.
What you were saying, it doesn't have something like it definitely won't be this page layout. It'll be the layout assigned to the action itself.
Right. Yeah. So we have a layout for that, and the type with, so the standard name of the field of type is required on that.
Can you show
field. Yes. Yes. Let me go back to that. So I can show you from here too. So if I'm going to create, this is our quick action. So here's that field activity type, but so it's here. So if I'm going to do this from like I'm composing a new message, then yes, it becomes required for me. But if I'm doing it from my calendar, so if I want to go in and log this, of course I've already logged it, so I'll go back to like edit, but I can't get the quick action to pull the data from here. So again, this is the same field. I hate that Salesforce has all different type, like it's type on task and activity type on events.
You can thank there being different product managers at different points in time who didn't bother to talk to each other.
That's my least favorite word in the Salesforce world is type.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I can't believe I can't believe I'm about to utter these words. If you all know me well, you know this is going to pain me to say, but have you tried a validation rule?
You know, I haven't tried a validation rule. I should try that next to see if that will at least block it and throw the error that something's missing from Outlook.
I mean, I can't even begin to imagine what it's going to look like in this particular environment in Outlook. You may end up with a lot of really upset users, but
yeah,
if it fires at the right time, it's going to get you the requirement, but ugh.
Yeah, because if not, you know, we're dependent on the team clicking this, that's not required. And, you know, that's like their least favorite thing to do is put extra information that doesn't have a red asterisk next to it.
Absolutely.
So we're just trying to enforce that.
No, I know. Yeah, no, VRs are always my absolute last resort, but I hope you're not at last resort with this.
Yeah, so I'll try and see. I'll do some more testing with the quick actions and see what I might be able to do here, and then I'll try validation rule. Let's see. Okay.
So if the validation rule doesn't work, and this is probably a worse suggestion than what Dale just did, but could you add a pick list value that in like all caps or something that says, please enter a type, you know, something that maybe stands out? That would be like the last.
So put it up at the top, for the love of God, choose something.
Yeah, something funny. I like
See, here's
it.
what's going to happen. If they're salespeople, and I'm not afraid to say this on a recorded line, they're just going to choose that.
Yeah, because they like
That's
it, right?
True. Yeah, just do the angry emoji face. Pick something. Yeah, I don't know, because I'm really tied down. I've tried every way to customize that panel with new fields or some type of text or just anything, and my hands are really tied. I've gone through all the help articles, and it's like, yeah, you can absolutely configure this panel. And then again, it's just about dropping in those lightning components where you're saying log on send, you know, looking at availability, items like that.
So I'll go back to Joy's suggestion earlier of potentially play with a custom field that you may have a little bit more liberty to enforce requirements on, and then that either workflow or process build or whatever updates the native field. If you try that, just be mindful of order of execution. Told you we were going to talk about that. That just to make sure that it does actually commit, that the requirement is enforced at the right time, that you still get what you want. I would put that just a hair above the validation rule idea, because surely actions have to be able to support this, like as your first line of defense. Surely.
Yeah,
my wife tells me I bring that girl into the situation way too much. Shirley just gets a bad rap.
I was kind of shocked that there was really no way to make, if that's the only field they're going to let me have, that I can't make it a required field. There's got to be some way.
Now, another thing to go research is, if you've exhausted all your options, is this potentially a known issue or needs to be reported as a known issue with Salesforce that it doesn't help you right now, but if it is a known issue, it can get on the path to being resolved? Because you're right, everything you're saying and you're trying to do makes absolute sense. and the fact that it's not supporting it is a problem.
That's a good point. So yeah, I'll exhaust. So I'll try with a custom field and some type of flow or process builder to populate the native field, validation rule at the last, see if I can get a text on there with like, just to answer this question. And then yeah, maybe I'll support or submit a support ticket and Google for known issues on it. Cause yeah, I was kind of thrown that there's just like no way for me to make it required. Thank you.
Yeah, and let us know, report back, let us know.
Of course.
So that was everything.
Todd's up next, I think.
Yep.
Hello, everyone. This is Todd. A couple of months ago, I brought up an issue I was having with a scheduled flow trying to post to Chatter using the group name. And it just kept saying, can't find the group. Make sure the group exists, but it works if I plug in the ID. I was wanting to use the group name so it would be a little more portable across orgs. There's an update I just posted. They identified it as a bug. It'll be fixed in the winter of 22. So apparently automated process didn't have the right privileges to look up a group name.
I mean, doesn't do you any good right now, but that at least that's next release.
Yes, at least it's coming up.
Yeah, awesome.
So, new item I'm dealing with this week, and I have my first meeting with my second support group within support at Salesforce. I've moved from Pardot to Core. We have a managed package that we're running to do address validation, and they removed some fields from the managed package. And I'm not familiar with this term, but it's considered a first generation managed package. So the field is still in our org. We're still using it. It happens to be a county field that they fill in for us, which we use for part of our territory management. But what has come up that's been interesting is we can add that field to list views, reports, see it on pages. We can do everything except access it with a flow, a process, or Apex code. And when I reached out to the vendor, he said, that's been an undocumented known issue since 2019 with Salesforce. Joy, it's okay. Hang on. So I'm trying to confirm that it is an undocumented known issue and see if they'll document it so we don't spend a week like I have tracking this down again. So I'll give you an update on that when I get it.
Woo! So let me make sure I understand. So it's an older managed package and they have deprecated fields, right?
Correct.
Are you still at least able to see them like in the setup screen or?
Yeah, they're in my object. I can see county everywhere. I can see it on the contact. I can see it on the account, and I can still use them. I can still update them. They are still updating it. The package still updates it. They've done something internally to say, if this field exists, go ahead and update it. If it doesn't, move on. So we even have the option of deleting that field from our org if we don't want it anymore, but we're using it.
Right. Yeah.
But you can't access it from a flow.
Correct. Can do everything with it except flow, process builder, or Apex code.
Oh, Apex can't even find it.
Apex can't even find it. That's what triggered it. We're using Engage on top of Pardot, another Salesforce product. And we had one sales rep that put county on the contact list view and used it as a filter. And as soon as the Engage fired the Apex code, a visual force error came up saying that it couldn't find that county field, even though we were staring at it on the screen.
Are you positive the API name is still potentially named as the package?
Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. Been there. I had this come up a couple months ago on the account. We have a billing and a shipping address, the standard addresses. And we have added a checkbox that says shipping same as billing, so the reps don't have to type the address again. And I have a process builder that if that's checked, it copies the address components over. Well, when I tried adding county there, it failed. So at the time, I didn't have enough bandwidth to deal with it. So I just took out the copying of that field, and then this came back up again.
In developer console, can you do a circle search and bring the field up?
Yes, I can.
So it's accessible through execute anon, but not through Apex.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I'm getting way over my skis here, but with first generation managed package, whatever term they used and everything, and you then not being able to find it in Apex or Flow or Process Builder, is there potentially any API versioning you can try and like retrograde back to find it?
I don't know.
Because I would wonder if, like, what are we on now? API 52, 51, whatever. If, like, let's say this was something that happened in 38, if you flipped it back to version 37 or 38 and magically it's there, that gives you a point of reference to potentially identify what may have changed to make that weird. And at that point, you're probably doing Salesforce's work for them, but it sounds like you need a fix as soon as possible. So you're self-serving as well. It's what you need to do.
Yeah, the fix right now when I talk to my managers, just tell them not to filter by that field in their list view.
Right. But I wonder if something changed from version to version, and that's what created the bug that Salesforce needs to go investigate.
So you're saying take and just like create a flow or something and version it back, use a different API?
If you're able to, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm in way over my skis on that one, but that's the only thing I could possibly think of. Okay. And I don't ski, so that should tell you something.
Well, I have a call at, let's see, about an hour and 7 minutes with core support. So we'll see what they say.
Right.
I'm curious if it's a namespace issue maybe too, but I mean, writing a Apex class and setting the API back is a great idea, Dale. You might not be able to do it with Flow, but at least you'd be able to understand if it is an API break.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was just a SOCL call, right? Or yeah, just to see.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't do Apex yet.
Oh, good for you.
I'm a configurer.
I love it. That's great.
So anyway, I'll update the group when I get an answer one way or the other, and we'll see what happens.
Well, and just absolutely shooting in the dark that maybe I'm on the right path. Do any of the developers know, were there any like monumental API versions where stuff changed that might be a point of reference instead of saying 52? Nope. 51? Nope. 50? Nope.
The vendor did tell me it was broken in 2019 when they removed that field from their package.
Right, but I'm wondering,
it's been a couple years.
But I'm wondering if the foundational bug, like the root cause of the bug with Salesforce itself, was before that.
Right, and it could have been. So anyway, just more informational than anything right now until I learn more.
Yeah. And I'm going to guess with the ever-present fluidity of managed packages, this is something that if you report back on what it is, you'll be giving some people some answers that they may be looking for as well.
That's why I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we got about 4.5 minutes left. Who was up after?
Sarah's up next.
My basic question is, I am finally getting on board with the send better email action from Unofficial SF and using Lightning email templates to send out some opportunity acknowledgements. And part of why we're going down this path is we want to send these emails to a field, an email address that's stored in a field on an object that's related to the opportunity that is not a contact. And I was wondering, I think that either it's the email template itself or the send better email is requiring me to put in some sort of recipient that's either a contact or a user or something like that in order to send it, rather than just using that one email field. And I was wondering if there's a workaround for that. And I'm happy to share my screen about what's going on, if that would be helpful.
Go for it.
Okay. Let's see. So here is the flow. And basically what I'm doing is if it's a certain kind of opportunity, I'm looking up to an object called the group directory listing that has email listings for this account that we're sending. And I guess I can show you that. So this is the opportunity. You'll notice there's no primary contact, and this is all in NPSP, so that might also be another layer on top of this. There's no primary contact, which is normally who we send email acknowledgements to, but because this is for an organization, that information is instead stored on this custom object called directory listing that has these email addresses here that are the ones that we want to send to. So I've set up a flow to go from the opportunity. So it finds the opportunity to acknowledge that it says, oh, is it a household? Go through sort of this normal format. And if it's not, get the group directory listing, then get the email address and select the email template. And all of that information gets input to this action where, so I'm setting the to address as the recipient email variable, which I'm storing that email address from the group directory listing in this variable. That's working fine. Then I select the email template to use. I let them select it on a screen, so that's also stored in a variable. That's working fine. Here's where it gets a little bit trickier. The recipient record ID is, I think, where I'm running into trouble. Like, it seems to be required to have something in there. And so I was like, okay, well, I don't want to send it to a contact, but I could send it to the running user, for example, as a sort of a BCC. So I set this as a user, but then it didn't like that. So if we do a debug, let's grab this. Still doing the old fashioned way. I know I don't need to, but and really, I'm wondering if what I want to do is possible, or if I have to send it to, if I have to include a contact recipient, in which case I'll figure that piece out. But so I'm going to select who I want to send it to. I'm going to send it to the general contact person. So then it says here in the input, so I input that email address that I stored from the group directory listing as the email address to send to. And the object ID, the recipient object ID is the user. So I guess it would be sending to the user also. And then I get this invalid ID field. What ID is not available to send emails to user IDs? I know a little bit about what that might mean, but if I do put in a contact here, that works. It's just, it's sending it to the wrong email address because it's their contact email address, not the specific group directory email address. So any thoughts?
Yeah, so that what ID is because you're building an email activity. That what ID has to be a contact or a lead, right, by definition. So you're trying to pass that user ID into a field that it doesn't like, right?
Okay.
So it really has to do with where that what relationship's going to. And emails, I think, have to have, sorry, not a what, a who. It has to have that. It has to have a who.
Got it.
Contact,
like
right?
A contact or a lead.
Yeah. I don't, right? Like, you can't pass null, right? You can't not create a recipient.
Right. Yeah, I was running into that problem before. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll try a different kind of recipient, but maybe what I could do is look up the contact for that user and attach it to that.
I think that's probably the best way to do that, because, you know, enhanced email in general, I don't know if you're using enhanced, but
yeah, we are.
Email records themselves just have those couple of weird validations to say, you're not emailing a place, you're emailing a person. And so it's trickling down.
So I have an idea, and I might be off. So if you were to go grab the right email off of whatever object, off of whatever record, and store that in a variable, then you can email it to that variable. I have in the past set up an actual formula that was a case formula in a past life that said, hey, if this guy's the VP of Division 1, send it to this email. And if it's the VP. So I assume that maybe if you can grab that right field from that whatever record you're trying to grab it, but put that email into a variable, it could work.
On the contact or?
Wherever you're trying to grab it from.
Yeah. Yeah, because I am storing it in a variable, the recipient email variable that I'm then using to send the email, and that works fine. It just was also sending it to whatever I specified as the recipient record, because it seemed to require a recipient record, which is separate from just the variable. But maybe, but I think I could look up basically look up the user contact and use that instead of the general contact person contact. Basically, I don't want to send the email to both the address that they've specified to use for this particular type of thing and to their general email address that we have in our database. That's why I don't want to just use their contact record. That part's a little frustrating. I'm like, we should just use their standard contact email, but
yeah, that one's that's yeah. 100% on board with this, Sarah. That one's a weird one.
Cool. Well, I'll give the contact a try and see if that works.
The issue is what, not who in this case, right? So the object that you're trying to relate it to, could it not be not the user? Could it needs to be some physical, like the representation of a physical, like a what would be an account or something, right? So the issue that I see there is the what ID doesn't like the user because it thinks it's a who. Now the what ID, what object is this? It's right, it's the email record or something, because it's advanced email.
What it's trying to do is,
if you were to be able to check in the object manager, are you able to find, I think it's email message or something, I can't remember the name of the object, but the related to, I believe, is the label of the what ID field. Shouldn't it not give you, it should give you a list of the acceptable objects that you can use as a what.
Sorry, I don't know if are you seeing the right tab? I'm in the object manager.
Yes, I am. Yep.
So
yeah, related to should give you the acceptable objects you can use as a what.
Okay. Cool. I'll check that out. Yeah, that is actually maybe one of it too. Is I'm a little confused between. I thought one of the things I was setting up to was this related record ID is the opportunity that I thought it would also be relating it to. And then the recipient record, I think, is the one that's messing things up.
Okay.
But it could be that I'm not really understanding what those are for.
I think that's a good call, John, though. It mean that message is usually the message you see when you try to link like an activity through who to somebody, but it might be the what that's actually the problem. I mean, I go down both those paths because I'm sure that's where it's tripling.
Cool. I'll give that a try.
Thanks. Good catch, John.
Uh,
Okay, we are 5 over, and I know there was one last question from John. With the members that are still here, John, do you want to just ask your question and see if there's any feedback?
Yeah, if anyone wants to stay on, I really appreciate it. I was mostly curious. I'm sure someone else has run into trying to make activities truly private. I've seen a lot of interesting ways of trying to do that. I did find through some recent research something called a restriction rule. I was just curious if anyone had actually tried that. I think there was a pilot program in the previous release, the spring release, spring 21. There was a pilot program that was offered. Last time, when I last looked, I think the earliest it would become GA was winter 22, I believe, when they said. I was just curious if anyone had used restriction rules and what that looks like, or used it specifically to make activities private.
So I have so many questions that I want to ask about why you'd make an activity private, but but that's not what you're actually asking. So I'm going to shut up and hopefully someone else has done something with restriction rules.
Can you define what you mean by private? So like, I'm thinking like role hierarchy, or are you talking about when I log a calendar event, I don't want everyone to see what it is in Salesforce?
Yeah, so private in the sense of other standard or custom objects where the security model is the same. So activities are a little unique in that, regardless of whether if you set their org-wide default to private, if if a user has access or visibility somehow to the parent record, to the what on that activity, then they are given implicit visibility to the activity. And the specific use case here would be, we have senior leadership team members who are in our instance, and they are having conversations with people that they want no one else to see, because it could be conversations that could be confidential in nature. And so what we would like to be able to do is make those conversations that they have truly private.
I see. So for me, so our group is integrated into Outlook, and part of the configuration, when you set up, you can do a sync where you have everything that's on a user's calendar, sync right into Salesforce. You can have it go both ways. And part of that consideration that it's really a thing for your users is that when they're making calendar events, if they click the lock and make the actual Outlook event private, then in Salesforce, it'll show that there was an activity, like if you want to view someone's calendar in Salesforce, but it won't show anybody the actual meeting details. So you won't see like the subject or anything like that. So I don't know if that might work for you. It's an adoption, of course, for a user.
Right. Yeah. I think because activities, I think there is a distinction between and events. And what I would like to be able to make, at the very least, tasks entirely private, where you aren't even able to see a breadcrumb that there was someone had a call with someone, right? I wouldn't want anyone to read into that, because due to the very nature of them seeing who had a call or something of that, there would be an assumption. And that's kind of the requirement, is that we do not want to let on something that there could be, certain conversations being had. So that's, really why I'm wanting to make it truly private. And it seems every permutation or attempt at trying to make that involves some sort of custom object and obfuscation of the data that's being visualized in the user interface, but it's still a breadcrumb that could lead to assumption.
I mean, I'm with you, John, because at Baird, as a financial services organization, there's a lot of concerns about what's being visualized due to like compliance gaps and things like that. And that tends to be the $100 question we've gotten, even when we've talked through this with our AE, is like, an activity is an activity for a reason. And if you're really hiding these things, they probably aren't activities. And so we were asked right away, what are you getting out of activity if you aren't making them public, right? Like all the rules about how they roll up and down the hierarchy and visibility and timelines. Like if there really is privacy, then custom object was the suggestion we got, which we didn't like that response.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
the
thing I most like about activities is those polymorphic fields, and the fact that you can't make a custom polymorphic field. If that were possible, custom objects would be such a better option for us. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah, the custom object route is been told.
So actually, you can make a polymorphic field, but it's not really a polymorphic field. What you've actually done is you hide all the relationship fields in the guts of the custom object, and you use a text field to store the ID. And then you basically use code to say, I'm on the thing, I'm creating a private activity. It saves the what into the appropriate relationship field wherever you want these things to happen. And then on each parent, you actually get like a pseudo relationship, but it's a ton of overhead just to make it think like it's polymorphic, but it works. We actually did that and then went, this is terrible, and we backed it all the way out. The restriction rule thing is really interesting. I mean, it feels very heavy-handed to do what you need it to do, but if it works, I don't know. I mean, like beta is also always the big flag for me too, right? Like beta is you don't know how much longer it's going to be, how much it's going to change. Some beta things get shut down. So
completely shut down, yeah.
So, I mean, I think, I assume you're fully in Lightning?
Yes.
So the real question would be, how important is it to be in the timeline, or is it just a matter of having visibility? Because obviously timeline has its own nuances. Are they restricted just for some people or for everybody? You know, is it like a visibility hierarchy? I think there's a lot of questions. We could spend a whole hour talking about this, I think.
Yeah, and I'd love to. I really would, because I'm sure there'd be things that I hadn't thought of. I mean, the timeline was one of them. We've turned the timeline on, but I hadn't actually tested turning it off and what that looks like in the sandbox.
Yeah, I mean, off, you just basically get the old school related list like you did in Classic, but a Lightning version. It just, it's not as interactive. It's ugly, but you still have the challenge of, the best part about the timeline is seeing everybody's interactions. And now you wouldn't have any of that if it was all private, but should you?
Yeah. Okay.
Are you a member of the success group? It looks like it's pretty popular.
Of this one, sorry?
For restricted rules?
Yes.
Okay, so
yep.
I know personally, any updates you get, post in MVP or come back and tell us about it, because I think a lot of us would be curious to see what you've learned.
Sorry, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I will absolutely do that.
Cool. All right.
Thank you folks for staying longer.
You bet. Thanks for holding on. All right, we're going to call it a show. Thank you, everyone, for hanging on. Thanks for joining us for the 200th episode. And we will be posting links soon. And we'll see you in 3 weeks.
Crazy.
Bye, all.